They were bitter rivals in ink, but in flour and fire, they found a recipe for love. For 5 years, the New York culinary scene was a battleground for two of its sharpest pens, Julian Vance of the Metropolitan Palate and Clara Moreau of Gourmet Gazette. They had never met, but their names were perpetually locked in a duel of words. If Julian praised a restaurant for its audacious deconstructions, Clara would lambast it for its pretentious lack of soul. If Clara adored a bistro's rustic charm, Julian would dismiss it as an unsophisticated bore. Their columns were legendary, their takedowns brutal, and their readership was fiercely divided. They were the king and queen of critique, reigning over separate, warring kingdoms of taste. Their online animosity was a spectacle. Julian once wrote, "Moreau's palate seems to be perpetually stuck in her grandmother's provincial kitchen. Bless her heart." Clara fired back the following week. Vance wouldn't know authentic flavor if it marinated him in his own oversized ego. They sniped at each other through veiled references and scathing footnotes, each review a new volley in a war neither was willing to lose. To the public, they were intellectual gladiators. In private, they were just two people deeply, almost obsessively, passionate about food. Then came the cooking class. Burnout and creatively drained, Julian decided he needed to get back to basics. He signed up for a 6-week course on rustic Italian cooking at a small, unassuming school in Brooklyn, using a fake name, Leo, to avoid any special treatment. On the first night, wrestling with a stubborn ball of pasta dough, he felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to see a woman with flour dusting her cheek and a wry smile playing on her lips. "Having trouble there, Leo?" she asked, her voice warm with amusement. "You re-treating that dough like you trying to wring a confession out of it." This was Elise, or as the Gourmet Gazette knew her, Clara Moreau. She too had sought an anonymous escape from the pressures of her job, a place where she could simply love food without having to judge it. Julian, or Leo, was immediately charmed by her wit and her surprisingly gentle hands as she showed him how to properly knead the dough. "You need to feel it," she said softly. "It's a conversation, not an interrogation." He found himself laughing, a genuine, easy laugh he hadn't experienced in years. For the first time, he wasn't Julian Vance, the feared critic. He was just Leo, a man fumbling with flour, utterly captivated by a woman named Elise. Their connection was instant and electric. Each week, they became partners in the kitchen. They bickered playfully over the right amount of garlic, celebrated a perfectly risen focaccia, and shared whispered stories over simmering pots of ragu. Leo loved Elise's passion, the way her eyes would light up when she talked about the history of a dish. Elise was drawn to Leo's surprising vulnerability and his deep, almost academic knowledge of flavor profiles, which he'd share without a hint of the arrogance she despised in her rival's writing. They started meeting for coffee before class, and then for dinner after. They walked through Brooklyn, talking about everything and nothing, everything except what they did for a living. It was their unspoken rule. In this small, flour-dusted world they had built, they were just Leo and Elise. One evening, after they had successfully crafted a tiramisu that was, in their shared opinion, divine, Leo walked Elise home. Under the soft glow of a street lamp, he confessed, "I feel like I've been living in black and white, and you brought the color back." Elise's heart fluttered. She felt the same. This man, this kind, funny, brilliant man, was everything she'd ever wanted. She had spent years building a career on sharp words and sharper opinions, but with him, she felt a softness she hadn't known she possessed. He leaned in, and their first kiss was hesitant, then deep and certain, tasting faintly of coffee and sweet mascarpone. The romance had officially budded, blooming amidst steam and spices. They were falling in love, quickly and irrevocably. But as their feelings deepened, so did a quiet, creeping dread. The 6-week course was nearing its end, and the real world loomed. They both had major work commitments they couldn't ignore. Julian had to review the grand opening of Aria, the most anticipated new restaurant of the decade. Clara, of course, had the very same assignment. They mentioned it to each other vaguely. "Big work thing coming up," Leo said one night, a knot forming in his stomach. "Can't get out of it." Elise nodded, her own anxiety spiking. "Me too. The whole city will be watching." They knew they couldn't keep their real lives hidden forever, but the thought of breaking the spell was terrifying. What if the truth shattered this perfect thing they had found? The dread grew with each passing day. Julian would read Clara's latest column and wince, not at her criticism of his work, but at the thought of her reading his. He'd started to see her point of view in some things, a terrifying thought for a critic of his stature. Clara found herself rereading Julian's reviews, and behind the arrogance she'd always seen, she now detected a sliver of passion that felt familiar. It reminded her of Leo. The closer the grand opening of Arya got, the heavier the secret became. They were two people living a beautiful lie, hurtling toward a truth that felt more like a collision course. The night of the grand opening arrived. The restaurant was a galaxy of twinkling lights, clinking glasses, and hushed, important whispers. Julian, dressed in a sharp tuxedo, felt more like a man walking to his execution than a celebrated critic. He clutched his small notepad, his professional armor feeling flimsy and useless. He scanned the glamorous crowd, a knot of pure panic tightening in his chest. He was looking for a ghost, a fantasy, hoping against hope not to find her. Across the opulent room, Clara adjusted the strap of her evening gown, her heart pounding against her ribs. She smoothed down her dress, took a deep breath, and accepted a menu from the host. Her eyes swept across the sea of faces, a nervous habit. And then she saw him. He wasn't Leo, the charming, slightly clumsy man from her cooking class. He was Julian Vance, the man whose arrogant prose had been the bane of her existence for 5 long years. He was standing there, holding his own menu, and he was staring right at her. Time slowed to a crawl. The bustling noise of the restaurant faded into a dull roar. For a long moment, they just stood there, frozen, separated by a room full of people, but connected by a single, devastating thread of recognition. His eyes, the same eyes that had looked at her with such warmth and affection over a bowl of pasta dough, were now wide with a dawning horror that perfectly mirrored her own. The rival in ink, the lover in flower. The truth was finally out, served up on a silver platter in the middle of the most important night of their careers. They locked eyes across the room, menus in hand. The story wasn't over. It had just begun. If you love this story, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with a friend who loves a good romance, and subscribe for more tales like this one. Thanks for watching.